So I ordered this little Ediag battery mate. Got it from Amazon. Comes in the box. It does have literature, Chinese as well as English. So there's the sheet there if you want to pause it and have a look. So it does have a little quick start guide, as well as the clips, which actually are not solid copper. I guess they got a copper coating on them. I actually do like the fact that they solder them on instead of just crimping. I think that's actually a really good thing. Glad to see that. So it's a little bit lighter and smaller than I thought it would be. And I guess the loading test is no electronic load. It would have a heat sink if it did. So it's no electronic loading like I originally had thought, but it looks like it just goes through a different test in the loading mode. And okay, it wants you to use the headlights and then try to start it. So it's wanting to use the load of the vehicle itself and then monitor. So that might be okay. It might be actually a good way to do that. So it's a really quick test here. I just have my power supply over 12.7 volt. We see how the indicator's doing here. As we bump on up, we see how the flashing frequency changes. That's really cool. I'm going back and forth here just to show that feature, but as we see as we approach 14.5 volts, we start showing a fault. So like the charging system will be overvolting the battery. So that works really well. Also worth mentioning, it automatically detects the 12 volt battery and showing green. So if I keep going closer to 24 volts, reconnect, it notices that it has a 24 volt battery system. And this is how it would act with a 24 volt, like a big truck battery. So around 28.5 to 29, you start getting the charging fault on the 24 volt system. So that's good to know. Also worthy of noting, if we switch this to the loading test rather than just battery check or battery test, we realize that the function doesn't change until we cycle it or reconnect, and then we will go to our loading test as described in the manual. I just don't think it's very clear on, that you have to take it loose and reconnect it after you change your setting or selector switch here. It doesn't automatically convert over, so just something to keep in mind. I think I'm going to go out and try it on a battery and see how it does. I just replaced my car battery. Truck battery is fairly new, so I think I'm actually going to try it on the lawnmower and just see if it'll show how well it works on the lawnmower 12 volt battery. If I hook the little tester up and I have it in battery test mode here, or it has picked up that we have a 12 volt battery here with the green LED lit up. So we passed the low into the mid range. So this battery probably could use a little bit of charging. It's been sitting here for quite a while, so I thought it'd be a good battery to check with it. So I do believe what it's showing here without getting a meter out. It says to check the dynamo or the alternator. So I'm gonna see if we can start it up now. And with this being a lawnmower, it's a little bit different than an auto, but the voltage regulation probably isn't near as good. But we saw as I turned the RPM on up, we did get a full or good. And if it would have been over like 14.5 volts, we would have got a fault. So with that increase, I know on this lawnmower that it was actually charging the battery, so that's good. With a car, I would expect it to be up a little bit higher and been green if we wasn't overcharging. One of the next steps, it mentions doing the loading test, so we'll disconnect it switch over to loading. We'll connect it back up, and we see that all of our LEDs are lit. Green LED for 12 volts all the way down. So now we're supposed to either take the coil loose or basically stop it from firing. On this lawnmower, if I just keep the throttle down to 0, I do know that it won't crank. So I'm going to turn it over and just see what the LEDs do here. So we do see that it falls, it stays in the middle. I do believe the battery's a little bit weak. I think it did say to charge the battery up before you do this test. So it definitely showing it could have used some charging, and I agree with that. So another thing it mentions here is checking the charging level. Switch on the headlights for 1 to 2 minutes. So I got them on. We'll leave them on for 1 or 2 minutes and we'll come back. So after cutting the headlights off and waiting about 10 minutes, it says to disconnect and reconnect the testing device, and it just gives us a charge indication level on the battery. So once again, this is exactly what I expected of this battery. I expected it to be somewhere in the lower range since it had been sitting quite a while without running. So ultimately today, I hope you found the review helpful. I found that it being lightweight and not quite what I expected, but still probably a good device for the money to have in a car that you don't have a meter in. Just a good diagnostic piece of equipment on the road. You don't have to worry about a meter and the batteries in it because this unit doesn't take batteries to operate. And once you learn the actual process of testing, it actually is a pretty neat little tester with a little bit of smarts incorporated into the check of loading your own battery with the vehicle itself.